Obioras, The Black Python Empire, Chapter 1, The Winding Journey of the Man. Right from the inception of the conception of a thick black blood on Nikwode, the chief priest of Amadioha, the minister of thunder, prophesied that Archiwendo, a woman whose womb had already been blessed with 4 female children, would give birth to a male child named Onyeg Bulam. A few months later, the prophecy came to pass in the family of Ichie Ajan Nikama, as the fresh black blood with the indelible mark of the gods came into the world as Onyeg Bulam, dedicated to Allah deity, the land goddess whose womb became the center of an ancient Igbo tradition and got circumcised by the husband Amadioha, the god of the sky. On reading the required 6 years, he attained initiation into the Ogo cult of manhood, as Ehugbo custom demanded for all male children. Having undergone the ritual initiation like a hen's egg hatched in the stomach of a green snake, he was being considered Anya Arusi, the eyes of the oracle and the stomach of the land, and the ears competent to apprehend any discussion between the land and the sky. At 18, Onyeg Bulam had grown up into an Iroquois tree, humped up with broad branches, dark, gaunt, and hollow-eyed with appendages. In his opposition to the forces of darkness, he poked several demons that lurked within. Out of madness, he woke up one morning and became a dog, carrying a kit bag to the bush to finish all excreta. Drastically, he soldiered along with scouting shadows to a landscape surrounded by the evil forest, the black jungle, and found himself at a riverbank where darkness built mansions, looking as confused as a ball of fufu, trying to move through the pythonic throat of the dark river. A young generation of vipers, like a shroud in the little wind, surfaced with a venom of silent divulgence, dwarfing distance and placing time in chains of drains. Aha! Who are you? And what are you here for? An unknown voice from the dark river echoed eerily, questioning. And yet the vipers were still busy with their acrobatic actions, making banana of his senses. Woohoo, evil snakes! So, I am already in the Black Forest, the spiritual home of black demons. My body is just the cloth I wear. My life. My eyes are no longer a place for the spark. There are some of the things sinking suns of dust into the ink of dust. Dusk. Well, this is another chance wasted for this seemingly doomed generation of vipers because they can't get hold of me, he said in a shocking voice against the backdrop of mortal and immortal beings. Though he watched the snakes hummed a silent tune of defeat, he still became pigeon-hearted, beginning a dance of distrust beclouded by an atmosphere of tension. Fear passed a gas-smelling thrash like an old age, as experiences started unfolding in a series of razor-sharp scenes. Ah, is this evil forest really a place to succeed? Should I drop dead now, who will bury me? Does it mean that vultures will eat my flesh? Well, this is the right place to bury the bodies, but death can never steal my soul. I am part of the trees that make Black Jungle a home for tourism, even though shadows stretch long, reaching for feet that scuttle back. The evil veil has been taken off my face, falling in the stumble, so I cannot be afraid of death when going to war. I am a raw human named Onyeg Bulam by birth. an animated being with the eyes that glitter in the darkness of the human mind. I am born to stay and fight as a warrior in the midst of adversaries. I am famished in condensation, witnessing fairy lights glowing in my imagination of the world, he said in a gentler tone, and his voice dropped to a whisper. He seemed boldly afraid, struggling to adjust his femininity to masculinity, avoiding the dark snakes that had scared the hell of any living thing from pulling him down. He kept himself controlled, and a space glowed orange in his chest. I am no longer a boy, but a young man. I am mindful that debilitating and grinding misery afflicts my people and chains them to the lowest rung of the economic ladder. For a decade, I have never seen the dimple line of smile and laughter. All I could see is how a dark stage lights on my skin, how the curve of my viewpoint shines in the cloud. Looking at the years of tears, my father's life was more of wars. First he fought Biafran War and survived. He fought internal war to collect back his farmland from his foes and conquered. He fought against hunger and survived. At least he lived from hand to mouth. He fought against white man's religion and survived. Since he didn't succumb to the Western arrogant religion subverting our culture. My father won almost all battles just to lose against malignant cancer. I want to be more than my father. I am dreaming big, believing I can be lifted from this dust of shame to reign supreme among the children of men, he said to himself, biting dust from his cleat. Prior to, he became all ears auditioning the contiguous river, incontestably putting up a fierce movement towards a flash, like the incessant black ants of the land protesting for their republic, aggravating to break out of the odious calabash of vassalage and buskage. And in the winding course of the river, the trees were swaying. I am at the top. I cannot be cowed. I must surely pull through. I am a product of success. Valiantly he said, gathering the whole ball of wax in his chest and giving the energy a voice. Straight away he turned to the rhythm and rhyme of reality, and his eyes saw contradictions and ridges of veins on the face of a classy devil, and the abode of his abdominal region very affronted. He looked about, seeing himself vanishing from the surface of the earth. Just like a glare, he could no longer see the sinful snakes again. They had all shrunk back against a sycamore tree in the evil forest. Is there any sense in nonsense? Will I even be afraid? And who should I be afraid of? I just want to ask whether there is any thinking faculty in the anus. Why did I entertain fear at the first place, seeing battle lines drawn? This is why the bones of my teeth are always vexing with my mass of flesh. Have I forgotten so soon that my Baba told me that I belong to Allah deity, the land goddess whose womb is the abode of the dead and the living? He asked obtrusively. All things in this dynasty should respect the god of the earth and be mindful of me, he said. emboldening himself the more as the waves of darkness sat close to his own heart, talking claptrap. It had all dawned on him that thoughts are a storm passing through the abode of demons. Nowadays I am a dog that hogs a keg of palm wine suffused with the charm of truth, telling my brain that fear is a beast that feeds on the fresh flesh of attention, he said to himself. A while he diverged, taking a gander at the mad river dancing Kerewa, a dance of bottom power with naked aggression. Aha! This ebony cloud has begun to vanish. His mouth supplied a self-deprecating laugh, though inwardly were still some crumbs of voices from the past, busy whispering with growing intensity of the impossible dream of making a fortune out of this God-forsaken area. Just like the small python of Idemilis, swallowing Udara without minding the size of her buttock. The surveillance of my headlights are keeping tab on a pigmentation of white complexion swallowing up a dark cloud. In this nick of time, it is rosy to see that the cloud of confusion is being consumed and the wind becoming a humble penis, he concluded. Like in the swimming imagination of dreams, an iridescent butterfly came flying across his cheek, making him smile at his own fervency. Thereupon a group of parrots came singing a cappella in the studio of a tree at the spot of plot. Omnifarious omen, an extremely pale butterfly across my cheek, and the liquid sound of bewitching birds. These parrots' songs is one of my faves, in high spirit he acclaimed, earing into the sweet voices of the parrots, calming his nerves. Whoopee! Pet bird singing me into eulogy. It is worth a king's ransom. I am a big bull already. Expeditiously I shall become a more accomplished selfdom. And I shall hire these parrotic birds as my choristers, my choir. He advanced, taking a load of bullock, like Ogbanje singing spiritual song in a gloriously ridiculous ground. Afterwards his eyes patrolled back and pored over, witnessing the haunted afterglow of morning, while ahead of him was an astronomical day of a scorching sun. O Anyanwu, eyes of the light of my ancestors, shining for all generations, how are you today? I am broke, no sacrifice to offer and calm your anger. Kindly understand with me and be soft the way you pounce on me, he said, trembling, as if he requested for a voice amplifier. A demonic magic voice of the forest came and gave him the voice of a wolf. He looked wildly, staring vacantly, his voice a wolf. I have got to school my mind to hustle with the sweltering heat of the jungle. Education of the mind is the key, but corruption has changed the padlock. In the circuit theater of forest nymph, violence takes it by force. Education and violence are antithetical concepts, though. He thundered, spreading the ashes of humor across his face like Eze Mamo, the minister of thunder. Under the sun he sat down, opening his wide mouth like a hungry womanhood waiting for the cassava of manhood. His eroticism and lust easily struck at the heart of things. He stood still, flowering and glowering satirically at the sky. His frustrated eyes paid a courtesy visit to the province of a living dead jacaranda, some tropical trees with blue flowers and pleasant-smelling wood, the wood of this tree. Yet he frowned, making headway as though a wizard, leaping and flying at a time on his verge of getting closer to view and reckon with the symmetry of a half-dead jacaranda. Aback, he took in the sights, and his eyes minded an old man, busier than anthills gathering firewoods in the castle. The age-old waist bent as an old donkey carrying overload, his thick muscles like a fully grown adult giraffe, his ears like a rabbit, his eyes a goat, his nose a cat, his mouth a rat, having the mustache of a mouse. The black eagle of my eyes have seen a repugnant cherub. With amorous stare, he said, laughing a dirty laugh in the plethora of dysphoria, considering how lonely he had been before now. "Good afternoon, man," he greeted. "The South Orchestra of my mouth has performed the concert." As a salute to man, he paraphrased, galling, as the pig-headed aged man had an earmark of stone-deaf, seeming his mind journeyed outside the cramp of this world, clamoring with the underworld. Is he indeed a mortal being like myself? Well, he might be, just hoping he talks to me and makes me a burning stick. Pulled out of the fire, he said, as an incredible piece of hope perverted over his entire being. His exhilaration and confidence began to grow taller, despite the odds. Maybe his eyes are socketed in the anus of his senses, or maybe his ears are on the wall of his mind that he hasn't seen me to grab an absorption of my greetings. "So let me big rush him in a hard way," he said to himself, bending and picking bones of stones on the skeleton of the forest. He kicked and licked his lips like a rat licking a pot of aguizi soup, masticated his mouth like the dog chewing a bone, exculpated his throat, and with the hoarse voice of a wolfhound impelled them at the age-old. Afresh he shouted, "Hey, old man!" The stone stole the show, running speedily as though in a marathon competition with the rumbling noise from his loud outcry. The old man heeded to a noise, escorted by the messengers of stones, landed on his waist. "Kapah! Hama! Who wants to kill me? Ingenachebum!" he screamed, turning round and sighting a deeper upward. His deep gray eyes pictured the young man throwing stones. "So, this old bat is even an earthling having flesh and blood. He mentioned Ikenga, one of the gods of our land," reasoned the young man. Who are you, and what have I done to deserve stoning?" The old man's heart gave a sudden leap that had pushed his mouth to ask out of pain. "I am guilt-ridden and self-condemnatory for my action. I erringly did that. I only thought you were a ghost," replied the young man with a parcel of factuality. And his mind secretly began a display of growth of confidence, seeing a life within. "Sorry for yourself. How dare you bombard me with stones, forest imp?" "You are going to smell your fart for this," said the old man, looking as furious as buffalo. He drew a circle on the ground, packed sands on the forest floor, spitting saliva on them, and breaking kola nut to carry out his incantation against the purported imp. Please forgive me for not being able to pronounce these names correctly. Ikenga iwe wo, Ikenga iwe wo, Adaka equela no aninguere wa memiri we wo, Ikenga iwe wo, Ikenga iwe wo, Adaka equela no anuguere wa memiri we wo. He enchanted, dancing round in a circle. The contrition of my attrition shows that I am sorry, man. Forgive me and stop this, your abracadabra. I am no stranger, but a son of the soil. I am Onyeg Bulam, the tree having respect from the forest where it grew, said the young man. Okay, so you are a tree. I will only incision you and use you as wood. Hope you know what fire does to the flesh of wood. All the trees in this forest respect me because I am the man of woods duly elected by the forest, said the furious-looking old man. But why should you do such a thing to me? I'm a human as you, and by the look of things we are kinsmen. Well, if you choose to go ahead and take away my life, you can only kill my identity on earth, but can't kill my spirit. You know the womb of our land is our heaven, replied the young man. Wacko waka for uttering a wanker. Are you also among the humans? He asked sarcastically, beginning to smile. Of course I am not dead, just that you want me dead. Anyway, earth is the king's bed, replied the young man. A light-hearted smile colored up his dark face to alabaster. I can't wish my kinsman dead. When did a preserver of life become death-wisher? Just being thrilled seeing you around, said the old man. Again he bent down, gathering his wood together like a lizard, covering up its eggs on the ground. Oh no, it seems the wild jacaranda woods are becoming sparse this time. Anyway, I shouldn't feel a dearth of becoming a nuisance to myself about that. Even the ordinary firewood in town cooks food for the town. The old man went off the bar, talking to himself as though plunged deep into his own personal misery. His juggernaut had begun to lose steam. He had even now unfolded himself like a rope and stood like a moronic imbecile, ready to attend to the occasion of words whenever invited over. But there was no bid. His dog eyes looked bleary, his catty mouth mimicking and meowing for attention. He had become so fussy, wanting to be particularized for cognizance. With a concise peculiarity, the old age stood up to his feet, and their titanic eyes clashed again in an eyeball-to-eyeball mood, transposing the wad of humor. Yes, young adult, you said you are who? With a cynical outlook, he asked flatly. I am that young tree having respect for the forest where it grew, replied the young man, looking askance. Might I know you also? I am Mazi Ezeonu, a man of woods dealing with trees of stress, replied the old man. Wow, Mazi Ezeonu, you're an accosted fellow, a man of woods that has nearly made me a wood. I can see you are digging gold in this place, said the young man, smirking. Yes, young man, I am doing just fine. Where on earth did you spring up from, and why did you choose this playground? Mazi Ezeonu leapt to his feet, looking more inquisitive. The young man became as quiet as a snail in its mobile house, watching him like a mirror, his questions leavened with some touches of harrowing emotions and storms of commotion. With a kind of silence more eloquent than speech. With a kind of silence more eloquent than speech. He sat gently gazing at him with childish curiosity. Young man, why do you choose silence over eloquence? Interaction is not a sterile passivity, but a powerful moral force which makes for social transformation. I am here for you, said Matsi Ezeonu. All right. I am from a Hogbo, a son of the soil. He opened up a bit, not wanting to be extremely reticent and letting himself out of the bad basket of secret. Ah, Matsi, it is terrible. I am here because a man doesn't have to lie down at the spot where his enemy has thrown him. It's been long that my hopes got slaughtered in a dark temple. I am here to become another hangman, hanging self. Though it all appears I am chasing a flight of fancy, he voiced out, sobbing out his heart, seeming his mind's injuries were still fresh vegetables. He got nipped in the bud, howbeit no blood flowed. Young man, seeing you in this evil forest is like seeing ghosts in the realm of dreams. He who runs after a wheel of fortune to the evil forest runs away from eternal peace of mind, the old man sang out in his fears. Will there really be a cold day in hell? A man cannot hide in a burning flame. Am I dreaming, seeing you here also, said the young man, frowning at the old man. When the dust was the serpent's meat, is now a history. The clash of the calabash that contains the sanity of this land was crushed into 1,000 pieces. I can't still imagine the tribulations of this terrestrial sentience at the peak of suicide, said the old man. Well, to some latent extent you might be right, but my soul would have rejoiced if you had thrown a ring into the ringer containing the feedback you beseeched. Is it also a dream seeing you here? I do believe that the rope that hangs a monkey hangs a baboon also. Anything pursued with common sense always brings common result. He who has the choice has the pain, said the young man. Look, young man, don't you know that crocodiles' teeth are white daggers? Don't you know that this jungle is just another sea of hungry lions? How did you finagle your way to this place without that kind of embarrassment of thought? The old man's elastic fear stretched vicariously with the feeling that the young man had already found himself in a hot pot of stew. He had bewilderingly become a blind parent of sighted children, covered with the tattered wrapper of empathy. Mazi, though crayfish is bent like an old age, has accepted that it was condition that broke her waist. He who fears death for the sake of broken waist cannot outlive an olive tree. Death is a friend to those who know their maker. I remember my last dream when I saw myself entering a well-crafted coffin of an artist. I woke up rejoicing for the kind of dream I love. That means that my time to die and meet my ancestors is at hand, said the young man, in a low tone, applying punitive measures. Ouch! What have you just said? Then, young man, you are not a human, said Matsueza Onu. His mouth remained smacked open, gazing steadily at the young man. He couldn't just believe his history of head. Of course, Matsi, I do know where I am. It is a place of sadness and frustration. I equally do know that you have more beauty product than me in your toilet bag. That is just by the way, my heart gloss over you being here. I have booked a first-class ticket to the moon, seeing you around, replied Onyeg Bulam. So young man, I can't got you why you should let your heart of stone gloss over me. To me, your identity is not yet known. I just want to assure you that these your feet that took you away from home will still hear the voice of your stomach that will take you back, said Maziezoonu with a little fall of the palate. Onyeg Bulam became shocked. The strange man's annotation daggered his emotion and his ideas of chasing his future bird held up to ridicule. Imagine being in the midst of wolves that grind their teeth in rage without sophisticated battle axe. Why should you have this tenacious mentality of carrying your condition in a shoulder bag? You will be awkwardly backward if you don't change, cautioned Maziezoonu. Well, Matsi, you are one of the lights in the sea of my darkness. The years of this tree standing here with you have heard your voice. Just know that the life of Black Jungle is the life of the people. The entire jungle conspired and pricked my scrotum with thorns. How can I remain calm without searching for solution in my daytime? But black venom is too much that I can no longer be kind to myself and another. The land and the sky are my weapons. Onyeg Bulam humbly qualified his initial statement, expressing his feelings. He dismissed a look from the middle-aged, dark, probing eyes. With all the honestness I possess, I tell the truth. You're still babyish in this understanding of this evil jungle. The Black Jungle is at the periphery of periphery, said Maziezoonu, continuously sneezing himself into cattle skin of refulgent perturbation. Matsi, though my idea of being here may be dead, it is far from being buried. I know here is considered a city of the living dead, so I am dwelling on living dead. Matsi, can you remember cliff badgers? Delicate little animals that protect themselves by living among the rocks. So I am, replied Onyeg Bulam, pouring libation to his withered mind. Young man, you may be sick in the head, he said. The chattels of his possessions were mysteriously unfathomable. Matsi, I know your manifesto has always been a bitter cola, but my head is in function. In my pocket of silence, I have pocketed all fears, and without any iota of pessimism, this is a step brazenly taken. Remember, the chicken said that it is by pecking here and there that its stomach is filled, replied the young man. In isolation, he put all fears behind to hustle himself out of the tunnel of objection. Young Black Sparrow, the chicken never said a word. Or are you the chicken? Tell me more. You are bereft of knowledge. The young fowl does not know how to crow until it hears the old one, said the old man. Anyway, whatever is your subjective opinion. A time came when I got tired of being trampled by oppression. I saw no sense in sitting idle in the cave of nothingness, but have seen a tiny sense being in this royal residence of the tragic king. The rough ground is the tougher ground to till. Well, that's my own tapioca, a coagulated dish. I could remember I once asked myself, Onyeg Bulam, What are those things that make you hunker down in resignation? Those things leading you into accepting the pain of life without trying to escape it, said the young man, exuding a sticky confidence with exuberant personality. Ish. Hauser, stop bleating. I only see you like a child in a waterproof basket and riverbank of reed. Well, a crab may not know the difference between cold water and hot one until it finds itself in a boiling pot of soup. Ignorance is the death of the living, winked the old man, scragged his frame of reference and gave him a bastard back. He bent a few feet of an aged distance, stacking up more woods. Without yielding to cogitation, Onyeg Bulam spied around with espionage, watching a clique of white, yellow, pink, and reddish crayon birds nesting at the top of a tall jackalberry tree of 80 feet and a trunk circumference of 16 feet. The songbirds were chanting happily as though celebrating and worshipping the god of Yam and the New Yam Festival. Their precious voices made him swim in the sea of diamond. Like the cat on the wall, watching for birds, he sat quietly on the ground, leering passionately with animation as though gone in pursuit of the birds of the forest. I love these kinds of jubilant birds always. They are drunk on a trunk of tree circumference of 16 feet in their conference. Though the world can forsake me, the sky that said I am his sperm will never. Only the sky can write down the true answer of depression on the stone wall of existentialism. You will make me walk on air like these chirping birds, said the young man excitedly. Do I truly have a sense of worthlessness being here as opined by this old bat? No, it can't be true. He is just an agent of discouragement, magnifying things, questioning my decision of being in this national wilderness. I would always prefer my feet to take me to my death. I am exploring to discover the name I already have. No one can kill me. I rely on my pluck, and I rely on the winged cherubs of my ancestors, he concluded, squeezing his face like an uncircumcised orangutan. Hey, young man, please, can you for once maintain the culture-revulture of silence and stop pouring gravel of words to my ears? If one does not chew water like chewing stick, he does not know that water has bone. As you can see, I am busy, bellowed the older man. Matsi, you are so rude. When I saw you at first, I thought you were the galaxy of a constellation of stars. But now I can see the real you. You're a contorted version of daymare, flagging a paragraph of impediment. I do know that a tear in one's dress that is not right now mended will surely turn that dress into a rag. I tend to mend the tear on my dress, and you're here steering the tear the more. May the gods forgive you for being a source of discouragement to young generations with potential future, said the young man, keeping his face like an old ass. Okay, young man, I am quite sorry for the harsh thrash. My mind suddenly turned into a knife that might cut off my throat. I only entertain fear due to the fact that baboons do not go far from their place of birth. And you know, some steps lead to an early grave. So I initially felt you're staggering down a crooked trail without realizing it. But you are such a clever dick. The coy glances of your determination has seduced me into trying to knowing why you have made up your mind for this wilderness, apologized the old man, feeling sorry and snowballing into sympathy. You're welcome, Matsi. Abominators have planted the bones of pigs in our soil. The land is messed up. It is sick. It is now dead. And there is confusion all around. That's why a python that does not swallow treasures along with companion does not grow fat. I do believe I have a role to play, since I don't know when there will be a new light in this dark megalopolitan. My responsibility as a human is about fighting oppression, about speaking truth to powers that be, about making changes to shine light in the darkness, and with a peep of protest, it is even better to flap a wing against the black python. But can a wing flap unless a bird moves it? I am the young bird flapping its wing. From the fatigue of despair, the land and the sky have risen me to the buoyancy of hope, said the young man, to the amazement of the old man, musing, Wow, young man, I was just like a lifer in cavity listening to you. Your remarks could wake the sleeping devil of this forest. You speak too loudly in the lifetime of the fierce and ugly beast. Your voice alone could reach out over the chasm of hostility and touch the ego of black conscience. But it is awesome. Your statement is a potential anecdote. Let's move further. It looks as if we are being jacked around here, said the old man. All right, Matsi, I have no doubt that through words I can give Adam's apple to the aphonic. I think it is a nice idea, replied the young man, simpering. They began to move deeper to the unfriendly side of the jungle, and at a meeting point came across a tree that had bought a farmland, lying helplessly frustrated on the ground and comforting their fannies. Now, young man, based on your improbable inspiration, I am convinced to think that your being here is not entirely coincidental. Though your decision looks erratic and distinctive, often chaotic, it might as well be genuinely potent, meticulous, methodical, and precise. Let's be rigorously well-defined. Why have you chosen this journey into the inland badland? Asked the old man, looking investigatingly impertinent. Well, it is a tall talk, replied the young man. Tears moistened his cheek, as if fighting back his tears he managed to wipe them. But even a tall talk can be cut short, said the old man. The bizarre convolutions of the tale is that I am the remnant left, the only survivor left in the household of Ichiaja Nakama, a home blessed with 4 damsels and me the bottom. When the curtain fell, malignant cancer, the messenger of death, ushered them back to the abode of the ancestors from where they came. After a lifetime of watching a disease stifle the spirits of the real people inside their decaying bodies, a tsetse fly landed on my scrotum. Then I noticed that kaki is different from the parchment of goat skin. That was when I began to feel the sweltering heat, that I am the next to die without accomplishing my mission on earth. Oh, you wicked dancer of cancer, I will never forgive you, wept the young man with a cornucopia stream of tears. Hold your tears, young man. Though it is obvious that the smoke of disillusionment floated in your mental sky, everybody will surely undergo the sentence of the grave, said the old man, trying to inspirit him from the sting. Matzi, the toad does not run in the afternoon for nothing. From my sense of foreboding, I left home because of the mysterious obliteration consuming all the fruits in my family tree. Then I could hear the pattering feet of early grave like crocodile lurking just below the surface of the water. Fear struck the city of my mind. And as I pondered the madness of the malignant cancer, I was broken and eviscerated. This decision to close my pursuers in the darkness came, and I found myself in this national wilderness, said the young man, catching cold at the thought of the nettlesome monstrousness that bit off the fingers that fed him. He had a super memory stick finding charity in the memory of his deceased guardians. It was indeed a Pandora's box, so mystifying. That means you're just like a gazelle escaping from the hunter. I can't still understand. Confusions are still busy singing hark, hark in my head. Does it mean that there was no medication to curb the cannibalistic disease on rampage? Well, the gods are your strength. I pray for the gods to be fully involved in the affairs of this world, because only them hold the interpretation of breath and death in their fingertips, said the old man, still covered by the cloud. Schmatzi, do you talk of a black streak of a healing agent? Comprehension and incomprehension are polarized abstractions. You won't get the hang of the horizontal position of complication. It was copiously a stipulation of misery that wore a crown of anguish, clambering on the family tree to cook an imperilment of hot potato, shunning all antidotes that would have at least curtailed the temerity of the condition that had lain on the family tree. Look at my people, with all the love and kindness they possessed, died like fowls. Well, as for the gods, whenever they're drunk, they make you suffer pain in the butt. The young man had a sough of emotion ran through him. Execrable movement of misery had shut down the light to his entire being, turning him into a bitter leaf. Yeah, that was indeed a genteel situation. An enigmatic, ruinous heap. Out of the wombs of our land, foods and other connatural riches are being born, yet there is poverty. An empire that produces numerous beggars needs restructuring. But does an erected penis have conscience? May the sky save the soul of the land. May the armies of heaven lash and whip all the evil perpetrators to their doom. And may they break this yoke of misery in the land, prayed the old man. Amen. I pray so. May the sky answer your prayer. Divinity is the hope of humanity. You adjured your supplication as though in my mind. You're indeed no man of today, said the young man, giving out a faintest smile. So be it. All I know is that the sun that melts ice dries cassava. If I might ask, young man, how is your father like? I think I have heard that name, Ichie Aja Nakama, before, said the old man. As I said at the Genesis, I did not know my father well. He died of malignant cancer when I was 8 years old. Since that time, I have known him through stories. Those my mother would tell me, and those I heard from my siblings who conked of the same malignancy. I know from these stories that my father, even with his Ophir, was not a perfect man, that he made his share of mistakes. He had his own share of mental poverty and disappointed his share of people in his lifetime. I have learned from those mistakes, and I reiterate, I want to be a better man that will be able to get his share of guilt purified, no matter what it entails, replied the young man. I am kind of speechless, young man. Everything about you is causing chaos in my head. What about your relations? I know there is usually a relationship between the farmer and the land, asked the old man, trembling visibly.